What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for another week of building Cato Neimoidia. This week, I have a very big breakthrough to share with you guys. Really excited for you to see it. I'm not going to give anything away. You'll have to watch the actual video, but definitely solved some very big problems that I was going to run into in the future and that I kind of already had run into. What progress I get done this week will also be dictated by what packages I get. I'm currently waiting on a bunch of parts to work on more of those cable links so I can create the cable system that's going to hold up the city. Can't really do more of those till I get the package in, so we'll see when that comes. But I do have a lot of parts for rockwork and for the dark bluish gray pad that'll go on the second cliff face. So regardless of what happens, there will still be progress. All that being said, it's time to get building. I'm going to be kicking off this week by showing you guys a little breakthrough I had with these cables. So if you remember last week, we ended on the fact that I wasn't sure how I was going to get these cables to be able to move left and right because there's two ball joints next to each other, so obviously they can only go up and down. Well, I was playing around and kind of, trying to figure out what I could do, and I realized if I scoot one of the ball joints this direction, one stud, basically making it taller than the other ball joint, I can still connect the two ball joints, but they connect at an angle like this. You can see this third link is jutting inward. So this now gives me the ability to have these links start out here and then jut down at an angle, and then I can just do this same technique but in reverse right here. So I'll come in like that and then straighten out here to connect into the city. So I'm very happy with this because I did not want to have them come straight down. I just felt like that wouldn't look as realistic, wouldn't look as good. And so this will allow me to keep that same amount of strength, because I was contemplating maybe just sticking a single ball joint connection right here. So you'd have double here, and then like a single one connecting them. That would kind of defeat the purpose of having two ball joints over here, because this single ball joint would obviously be the weak link and it would always break right there, regardless of how strong the other connections were. I've got another one on this side going in the opposite direction, so both of these cables can now come down and then sort of meet right here. And I could even have a meet and then one single cable come off of that one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I do have those options. Right now what I'm waiting on is more parts. So I bought a ton of tile, ton of cheese slopes, some more ball joints, bricks, plates, basically all the stuff I need to be able to produce a bunch of these. So once I get those in, I'll really be able to start playing around with like the length of all this and kind of show you guys what it'll look like when it comes in down here and then comes straight down in that direction. Well, surprise, surprise, I am working on rockwork once again this week. I need to get this side high enough so that I can put that dark bluish gray pad in there in the center. This side is much shorter than the first side. I've kind of been neglecting. I've kind of been focusing on the first side as I got that pad in. So I'm going to be over here this week, and I'm really going to try and focus on getting this front section looking good. Especially, you can see where I'm kind of building now over there in that corner where that sharp angle is, because the cliff face runs pretty much flat with a little bit of a curve across the front, and then kind of where that cave is, that maintenance cave with the pipes, there is a pretty sharp curve. There's a pretty sharp angle going back, almost 90 degrees, but not quite. And I'm trying to figure out how to make that look natural and not too chiseled or man-made while still making it look smooth and realistic. So that's going to be a fun little challenge, but I think by the end of the week, I should have something satisfactory in place. I do also have this center flat area in towards the middle of the cliff face. That's where the pad's going to be going. I knew that those were going to be going in pretty much since the beginning of the mock, and so I tried to keep both cliffs fairly flat in that middle area. That way, not putting a bunch of slopes or a bunch of cracks or just stuff that would mess up having a big pad there. That way, when I did decide to put it in and I knew where it was going to go, I wouldn't have to do too much modifications to get a nice solid section. And this side, I did a pretty good job. I had to do some modification, take some slopes out, switch some stuff around, but all in all, it should work out pretty smoothly. I do also have this little measuring stick you can see down by the front of the mock, and I did this to know how high I needed to build. So I basically stacked a bunch of bricks on top of each other until I reached the bottom of the pad, the dark bluish gray pad on the first cliff face. And this gave me a little measuring stick to know how high to build. So I've got it over here, and you can see I've pretty much reached the height that I need to start putting that pad in. Okay, so I did some more work on this front side after that time lapse. You can see I got quite a bit of progress done. Brought this whole front part up at least probably like 10 bricks or so. And then I started on the large dark bluish gray panel that's going to go on this side. It took just a second to kind of get it all lined up because I wanted it to be lined up with this side, so I had to build a little measuring stick to see how tall it was and then see how far over that direction it was. That way they're on the same plane. That's not super critical in a mock this big, especially since these things are just kind of swinging in between. It probably wouldn't have made a big difference, but I still wanted it to be as close as possible. Rockwork's still going pretty smoothly, kind of just doing the same techniques I have been. There's a little kind of cave underneath this slab. I'm doing the same process over here as I did on that side. I'm alternating between a 2 stud layer and a 1 stud layer. So you can see it because I've got 2 here. My next one is going to be a single stud and the filler brick's going to come in on top of here. This will allow me to make what looks like a large slab that's been set into the cliff, but actually have it be part of the cliff. That way if this breaks or tries to pull, or if it gets pulled out, it would literally have to pull out this entire section of the mountain. It is a little flimsy, but I think it'll be a lot stronger once I run these support rods from the back. I'll probably do 3 again right here, connecting to this wall, which should help shore up this one. I know I mentioned this last time, but I just think it's so funny and kind of cool to note that you can see the different times of when I came over here and built on the mock. Because typically I'll build until I run out of filler brick or I go through a large chunk of it. So I have to order in new brick. So you can see right here, there was a time of orange, there's a time of blue, time of green down here in the beginning. And then right here, you can see this latest layer is what I've done today is all green. So we got another layer of green on top of that. What's going to happen next is probably more boring rock work, so I won't make you sit through another time lapse or anything. I'm definitely going to want to get this to about like right here or so. I did also want to point out I got another section of olive green in here, kind of like a bigger swath, kind of what I've been doing instead of the smaller, more frequent patches of olive green. I'm waiting on plate and cheese slopes, so once I get more of those, I can build up the sides of this plate. And this one over here, you can see I kind of ran out. I'm also waiting, and then once I get that big ordering of those, I should be able to crank out most of these slab areas pretty soon. All right, got a little haul here from Bricklink. It's gonna be some parts and minifigures. So got some dark tan here for Cato Neimoidia, some dark bluish gray. I think, yeah, this dark bluish gray is actually, some of it's for Cato Neimoidia, but some of it's also for a side mock project I've got coming up. And then I did also get a couple of minifigures. These were actually really cheap. So I got one of the Rebels Stormtroopers. I'm not a huge fan of the design, but it's better than the newest one, so I figured I could sprinkle a few of these in with the Rogue One Stormtroopers. And then I got a Phase 2 gunner. This guy was only $10, or I think $11, which is pretty cheap for one of these, especially in this condition. He does have a crack on the torso right there, but that doesn't bother me at all. So I think I've got like 4 of these now, which is cool because I really like this minifigure. Then just more random dark bluish gray and some green. I'm excited to get these because now I can start working on this project. Also, random side note, I just got the UCS Imperial Shuttle just chilling here. Took it off the shelf the other night because I wanted to see it with the wings down. Kind of missed how it looked like that, and this is really one of the only places where I can display it. Well, it's time for one last update for the week. This wasn't exactly the week I was planning on having as far as progress goes. I was planning on having pretty much most of this done, but I still need to design what it's going to look like because I put these cables in kind of just to test them out, so I don't know exactly where they're going to be, so I might need to raise this up higher or bring it down lower, and I'm not sure how many cables I'm going to have. So I think next week I'm really going to need to sit down and look at the reference material in Cato Neimoidia and really figure out how many cables I'm going to be using and where they go. Then I can continue to work on this area. I was also planning on having more of these built. I was going to build like, I think 10 or 15 more, but the parts didn't come in. They're actually probably going to get here on Monday, so I think next week I'll be able to build more of these as well. But I was really happy to figure out how I was going to angle the cables like that, so now I can get them to kind of angle in like that and then go straight if I want them to. As for this side, I got a lot of progress done on the rockwork. I think when I started this week, I was right here. So you can see I got good 3 to 4 inches of rockwork in place. And then I got a bunch of the slab in. I'm probably getting about to the height where I'm going to start wanting to add those cables. So really got to get that figured out before I can work on this side as well. I'm really happy with how the rockwork turned out on this side. Earlier in the week, I wasn't really happy with that corner area just because I felt like it didn't look natural. It was kind of a tough area to build because you don't see a lot of like sharp angles like that too often. I feel like typically you see more rounded stuff. I mean, you definitely do see it, but I guess I have more experience with a more gradual turn, so to have something this sharp was pretty tough to achieve. But I think looking at it at the end of this week, I'm pretty happy with the techniques I use. I use a lot of slope on this side because, I didn't want it to be like a 90-degree angle. I wanted it to look like it naturally eroded like that, and it was just some kind of natural curve. That wraps up this week of building Cato Neimoidia. Like I said earlier, not exactly the progress I was looking for. Nonetheless, still happy with what was done. And next week when those parts come in, I should be able to get a bunch of work done with those cables and the city area. Hope you guys enjoyed this week of building Cato Neimoidia. I had a lot of fun, especially when I got that whole cable problem figured out. It's always cool when you run into a problem like that, like a real serious problem, and then you just find this simple, easy solution that totally fixes it. Doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't always come so easily. So when it does, it's really nice. Next week, I'm really going to dive into the design of what the whole pad is going to look like and what kind of details are going to go into it just to make it look better. Because I feel like right now it's kind of bland and kind of plain. All that being said, if you like this video, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and like the video. And as always, feel free to leave any comments, questions, or anything down below. I love getting comments on the videos. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.